Good evening. It is, do we have an echo still? Okay, we don't. Good evening. It is January 6th. It's Tuesday, and this is our special council joint committee of the whole and council meeting. So I'm calling the meeting to order at 6 p.m. and I'll ask everyone to rise for the playing of the national anthem. Sometimes the old-fashioned way is the best way.
That's damned, I don't.
And, oh. Okay, so we will deal with that technical issue at a later date. I apologize. Hopefully, those watching virtually can still hear us. Okay. And if we don't have that technology, then we might have to take a small break. But if Ms. Taylor, can you put something in the chat if you can hear us? Okay,
Yeah, I can hear you there.
Ms. Taylor?
Yeah, can you guys hear me there?
Okay, so I apologize, but we want to make sure that everybody can hear us.
So we can't,
Can't hear.
they can hear us, but like we can't hear Moya. She unmuted and we couldn't hear her.
Okay, that might be challenging. So maybe what I'll do is I'll move forward with the land acknowledgement in the meantime while you're still trying to address that. So number 3 on our agenda is our land acknowledgement. With gratitude, the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands acknowledges these lands and waters are the traditional territory of the Algonquin, Mississaugas, Mohawk, and Huron-Wendat. To recognize the role the township must play in truth and reconciliation, we also acknowledge the displacement of these peoples. Additionally, the township would like to respectfully acknowledge First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples who also call this place home. We make this land acknowledgement to honor the Indigenous ancestors who have stewarded these lands and waters since time immemorial. So the next item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda, and it's moved by Councillor Kelman, seconded by Councillor Leclerc. I'm still getting used to the signature. That the agenda be adopted as circulated and that the procedural bylaw be waived for this meeting to include the delegation agenda item at number 10. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Next item is declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Does anybody have an interest to declare this evening? And we have no hands up. So there is no closed session and therefore we won't be reporting out and we'll move forward with the public meeting. And the motion is coming from Councillor Leclerc, seconded by Councillor Kelman, that the public meeting be called to order at 6:05 PM. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. So the item this evening on the public meeting is 8.1 zoning bylaw amendment application D14 2025-013915 Woodridge Lane. So it's agenda item 14.1 for the planning report, and that's later on in the agenda, but for the supporting documents on the matter. So the Director of Planning is going to speak to this.
Thank you. Through you, this is a public meeting for an application for zoning bylaw amendment for 915 Woodridge Lane. The subject application is proposing to change the zoning of the property from rural to exception shoreline residential zone in the township zoning bylaw 07-079. The proposed zoning change would allow for the partial conversion of an existing detached garage on the property. So the building would continue to be used for a garage as well as a sleeping cabin. The proposed sleeping cabin exceeds the maximum permitted floor area of 30 square meters, so it's proposed to be 31.2 square meters. It's also an existing structure located within the minimum setbacks from the high water mark, the minimum front yard setback of the RS zone, and the setback from a private right-of-way. So the proposed conversion would allow for the 31.2 square meter conversion of a portion of the garage to a sleeping cabin. 18.4 square meters would continue to be used as a garage and storage space. There would also be an attached unenclosed deck of 12.5 square meters. And the property is currently developed with a single detached dwelling and attached uncovered decking, as well as 2 accessory structures. Notice for tonight's meeting was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act by posting on the township website and mail out to all properties within 120 meters of the subject property. There's been no input received with respect to the notice of public meeting. And if the zoning is approved, the owner would also be required to apply for and obtain site plan control approval prior to any building permit issuance.
Okay, any further comments regarding this application? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And through you, a couple of questions is it's changing from an RU to an RS 63. It's a 63 I don't think I've ever seen before in this kind of realm. We've seen RS before, but having a number attached to it is a little different. And my other second question is, do you know how many bedrooms are in the actual residence? Thank you.
So through you, the site-specific zone is the 63, which means that it would be zoned shoreline residential. The 63 is site-specific provisions that would apply to this property. So the 63 is an identifier, which would be specific in terms of the setbacks of the building and the structure and the floor areas and those types of deals. So it's a site-specific zone that would only apply to this property. With respect to the number of bedrooms, I'm not certain of the number of bedrooms in the existing cottage, but the proposed conversion area it shows 2 bedrooms, but it's modest size within an existing structure.
Any other questions in regards to the application? I have no hands up. Is there anyone online that would like to raise their hand to see if participants, just hang on here. We've got one.
No.
No?
it's gone.
Okay, I just wanted to double check. Okay, seeing no other hands up, we will move to close the public meeting. Moved by Councillor Kelman, seconded by Councillor Leclerc, that the public meeting be closed. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Thank you very much. So we're moving on to briefings. Now this where it might get a little bit dicey if we're still having challenges with connectivity. You we'll test. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is Moya Taylor, the 2025 Asset Management Plan, and she's from PSD Citywide Incorporated. She's here virtually, and we see her on the screen now, so that's good. Now the question is, can we hear her? So if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Can you guys hear me okay?
Okay. Okay, we can hear so that we're winning so far. Good. Go ahead.
Perfect. All right, let me just share my screen here. Hey, can you guys see my screen okay over there?
We sure can. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So thank you all for having me here this evening. I'm Moya Taylor, Asset Management Advisor with PSD Citywide. I've been working with the township staff to develop this 2025 asset management plan. So just want to say a big thank you to the staff for all of their hard work as we work throughout this plan. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the overview of the key highlights of the 2025 asset management plan. So I'll be going through the regulatory context, the highlights of the asset management plan, and the recommended next steps. And finally, I'll leave some time at the end for questions. So to start off, I'd like to touch on the background and the regulatory context. As part of the Infrastructure for Jobs and Prosperity Act of 2015, the Ontario government introduced Regulation 58817, which was the Asset Management Planning for Municipal Infrastructure, or OREG 58817. This required Ontario municipalities to develop an asset management policy and AMPs between 2022 and 2025, each with increasing complexity. So as part of our current engagement, PSD Citywide developed an AMP that meets the requirements of OREG 58817 for the 2025 requirements. So as you can see, we have a quick overview of the OREG requirements for each of the defined AMPs. The AMP that we have developed achieves full compliance with the 2025 requirements. This focused primarily on proposed levels of service and looking at the impacts of growth on proposed levels of service and the financial strategy to meet those proposed levels of service. So now I'll jump into the details and specifics of the 2025 asset management plan. For the 2025 asset management plan, we analyzed the core assets, which would be the roads, bridges and culverts, storm, sanitary, and the water network, along with the non-core assets, which are all other capital assets, including vehicles, buildings, machinery and equipment, and land improvements. So the analysis of these asset categories was limited to existing assets only, but we did address anticipated growth and its impact on asset management. The AMP supports efficient use of funds on infrastructure programs and provides an important tool for communicating internally and externally. So here we can see the current replacement cost of municipally owned assets. Currently, the total replacement cost is $172 million, and this is in 2024 dollars, so it would be to replace everything today, and there's no inflation accounted for in these projections. And here we see a breakdown of the asset portfolio condition. So overall, 73% of the municipality's infrastructure portfolio is in fair or better condition, and they have an average condition of 60% or fair. And this condition data relies on both age-based and field condition data. So the chart here shows the percentage of assets that had condition assessments applied and the source of those assessments. Overall, assessed condition data was available for about 60% of assets. So for the remaining 40%, age was used as an approximation of the condition. The age-based condition typically overstates the needs and overall deficits, whereas the assessed condition data helps build confidence in decision-making. And of course, the levels of service were the primary component of the 2025 AMP. So adequate revenue is crucial for building a sustainable asset management program. In order to deliver affordable levels of service, we need to look at a balance between the cost, performance, and risk. And the table here shows the current level of service for each of the asset categories. So you can see the replacement cost and the asset condition for each of the asset categories broken out. Understanding the current performance of the assets allows us to determine what is an acceptable level of service and what it would look like financially in order to work towards achieving those targets. So as you can see here, the township is committing approximately $3.8 million towards capital projects per year from sustainable revenue sources. This includes your CCBF, your OSIF, your tax allocations, and reserves. The average annual requirement for both tax and rate-funded assets to continue to provide the current level of service totals approximately $4.7 million. So this is resulting in an annual deficit of roughly $919,000. Put differently, these assets are currently funded at about 80% of their long-term capital requirements. So understanding the infrastructure deficit and the annual requirements, 3 potential scenarios were analyzed for the proposed level of service. Scenario 1 looked at maintaining existing funding levels. So this would assume no increase to taxes or rates for the purpose of increasing capital funding. Scenario 2 modeled achieving 100% of the target funding level in 10 years. So when we say the targeted funding level, we're looking at the average annual capital requirement, which was calculated from citywide. So scenario 2 looks at achieving 100% of that targeted average annual requirement in 10 years. And this would assume a tax increase of 0.6% and a water rate increase of 3.3% annually for the next 10 years. And then scenario 3 modeled achieving the midpoint between that current and the target funding level in 10 years. So this scenario would assume a tax increase of 0.3% and a water rate increase of 1.8% annually for the next 10 years. While we did review all 3 scenarios, the township has selected scenario 2, which is achieving 100% funding in 10 years, as their preferred path forward regarding proposed level of service for the tax-funded assets. And scenario 1, which would be maintaining existing funding for the water and wastewater rate-funded assets. And this is reflected in the financial strategy. So the township will be performing an external rate study to determine the rate increase required for the water and wastewater, and have therefore opted to maintain existing funding levels for these asset categories, pending recommendations from that rate study. By selecting scenario 1 and 2, which aim to achieve specific target funding levels for each asset category, the township is setting a prudent financial goal that supports responsible stewardship of its assets. This approach reinforces Leeds and Thousand Islands' commitment to delivering sustainable, resilient municipal services while maintaining fiscal responsibility to their residents. So based on the current infrastructure deficit and looking at the selected proposed levels of service, it's recommended that the tax-funded assets see an increase of 0.6% annually for the next 10 years. And that will be solely for the purpose of phasing in that proposed funding to the asset categories covered in this AMP and eliminating that infrastructure deficit. So as I mentioned, the water and wastewater would remain the same pending the recommendations from the rate study. It's important to note that these numbers do not factor in one-time grants or non-sustainable sources of revenue. These will continue to be essential for investment in capital infrastructure. Additionally, these numbers do not account for any future inflation as they consider the value of the assets today. Any tax or rate changes required to account for inflation would have to be considered in addition to the tax increases recommended. Asset reserves are also available for use during the phase-in period of the proposed funding. So using this along with the prudent use of debt in the past allows scenarios to assume that if required, available reserves and debt capacity can be used for high priority and emergency investment in infrastructure. Adjustments to taxes should also be supplemented with project prioritization and evaluation of the desired level of service. So that's everything for me. We can look at next steps and recommendations. It's recommended to continue to review and refine the asset inventory in consultation with internal departments and stakeholders. It's also recommended that a portfolio-wide data governance strategy be implemented, and this will increase the accuracy and confidence in the data. And also look at developing an established cycle for updating replacement costs and condition information in citywide, as those are the essential pieces of information that we need to update future iterations of the plan. It's also recommended that in-field condition assessments are completed to ensure accuracy in the data presented in the AMP. We also recommend reviewing all the estimated useful lives defined in the tangible capital asset policy as part of a regular policy review. In regards to next steps, the OREG does require that council conduct an annual review of its asset management progress on or before July 1st each year. So what that includes is addressing the progress in implementing the AMP, identifying any factors that are impeding the ability to meet the AMP, and identifying a strategy to address any of those factors. The AMP must also be updated fully at least once every 5 years. We also have to look at continued improvement and regular review. So it is a living document and it should be updated regularly in order to inform long-term planning. The yearly capital operating budget should include funding for the assessment of the township's assets that will be used to update future iterations of the plan. And that's everything from me. Thank you all very much for your time, and I'll now welcome any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Ms. Taylor. So I guess I would direct any questions to either the presenter or to the treasurer at this point. So if anybody has comments or questions, now would be the time to make those questions known. Please go ahead, Councillor Maitland.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Again, we have this coming back to our table later on, and I did have when I went through that report, I had a lot more questions than I did with this one. But I guess with this one, is there any annual compliance issue going forward for government grants? And how many how many grants do we receive in a year on an average basis?
I think that's more appropriate to be asked when we talk about it
Yeah.
further on. I think for the purposes of this particular presentation is more about process.
Yep.
And in regards to how we have to meet the government regulations, they're assisting us to ensure that that happens. Am I?
Yeah, it's through you, Mayor. That's exactly right. And I would just say, Moya touched on it, but when we develop AMPs under the OREG, they only, for funding sources, they're built on predictable, reliable funding. So i.e. our contribution to reserves, CCB and OCIF, that's really what's included in our annual funding. Because as we know, grants, you can't necessarily count on them. So when we're building a long-term asset financial strategy, we only include those really specific ones we can count on each year.
Go ahead.
And as a follow-up, by having this report done, does that help us get grants in our future?
Yeah, so through you, Mayor, senior levels of government, whether it's the federal or provincial levels, typically when we apply for grants, there is a requirement to have an up-to-date asset management plan. Once this asset management plan is adopted, we do upload it to the province as well, where they do keep a record of us being in compliance with the up-to-date plan.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions in regards to the delegation or the briefing, I should say? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Ford.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Are you able to go back to that first or second slide? There was a number of 2 affixed to the water system. And I was curious how you arrived at that.
Yeah, which one were we looking at? Sorry.
It was either the first or second slide you had.
This
tried.
one.
No, keep going. It jumps off the page there at some point. Oh, it's further than I thought.
believe
There. Whoa, just back up.
Yeah, the one with the assessed
That one.
conditions.
Oh, yep, yep.
How did you get that number 2 on there?
So what we do when we look at the percent of assets with assessed condition, we do that as a percentage based on replacement cost. So you can see that like things such as the road network where we have the road needs study, or the bridges and culverts where we have the OSIM reports, all of that gets uploaded into Citywide. For the water system, that 2% was coming from staff assessments. So there was probably a couple of assessments put in there, and we got that percentage based on the replacement cost percentage.
Okay, so it's only based on what was entered.
Yeah,
So-
so we look at the like the whole portfolio, and basically we look at how many of those had assessments, what that replacement cost was, and divide that out by the total replacement cost of the water system.
Okay, because it kind of threw me off knowing the tower was just totally redone in our water tower in 2019. And we're looking at an assessment of 2, and I'm thinking, how did you get there?
The treasurer
yeah.
might have a
Okay.
response to that as well.
So I would just add, when this chart is showing like, so if we don't have a specific roads need or an OSIM report for bridges, the default in the asset management plan is then to go by age base, which is why one of the recommendation is to always review the TCA useful lives, because if we don't have a specific assessment, it defaults based on age for conditions. So that's what they're showing, that like for HCB roads, the condition, the assessments and the conditions are based on roads need study. So that's a specific action we took. So in saying that, I would say, if we remember for the 2026 budget specifically, in 26, we have budgeted, I believe we're doing another roads needs this year, and we're doing a building condition assessments on all our facilities again, just to be able to update those. But things like furniture and stuff, that's all just age based. Like we pool assets of desks that we bought 20 years ago. That's why I think on another slide, when it talks about the condition of them, furniture is rated poorly. That's just purely age based because it's pooled assets from when we bought all the desks here 15 years ago. It's not really speaking they're in
actual-
fine shape. It's just, it's based on age.
So like a straight line amortization versus a
Yeah, based on the use.
depreciation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for the presenter? Okay, there are no other questions. So thank you, Moya. We appreciate your time and your expertise, and Thank you for your collaboration here in the township with our staff.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is delegations. We have Peter Savold here to speak about pickleball in Lansdowne. So we'll ask him to come to the podium. So Peter, you have 10 minutes and we're going to set the timer here. So we'll give you a warning at 1 minute so that you know how much time you have left. Is the microphone on there? We're good? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
So Madam Mayor and council and staff members, thank you for hearing me. And also thank you to the pickleball players who have shown up. A number more were going to come had it not been freezing rain. But I'd rather have them alive than here. So there you go. Pardon me. I am not in great shape. I fell and broke a couple of ribs. So I am a little rough. Anyway. Pickleball is growing at a phenomenal rate in North America. In the last 5 years, we've had 4 times as many players. That's phenomenal. Imagine that. And this is a participatory sport. We're not talking about people watching it. We're talking about people doing it. 12 years ago, Jeff and Nancy Singleton introduced pickleball to Lansdowne. None of us knew what it was. And they got us playing in a gym, and we started playing. We liked it. But at that time, there were maybe a dozen people playing. And now there are facilities, at least 3 in Kingston. We have a nice court over here by the park. There's one in Gananoque. There's one in Mallorytown. There's one in Brockville. It has grown and grown. Can you show that picture of the courts? I hope the councilors got that, what I wrote and the pictures.
Yep.
But apparently it's possible to put that picture up here so that other people can see it.
One that you marked up or the one as is?
Well, let's have the marked up one. It looks more like a whale than a pickleball court. Oh, there we go. Okay. Keep going up. There we go. Okay. Yeah, it's not kind of fitting on the screen. Is there any way to get that, like the 6 courts at the top on the screen? Now we're there. Lovely. That's it. Okay, so what this screen shows is that at the top, there are 6 pickleball courts. And they're nice to play on. The top 2 have temporary nets because we share that space with a basketball court, which is great. The bottom big blue blob is a tennis court, and it's never used. I mean, I say that, to say never is a lot. I played all summer. I saw 1 person practicing serving on it. It's very seldom used. So those red things, red rectangles, are where we could paint new lines for 4 more courts. And there's room. I measured it. And we would put temporary nets there as well because we can't block the tennis court. And then in the summer, we were having 40 people out. We play doubles. So on a court, you get 4 people. So now we have 6 people. We get 24 people on. This way, we'd be able to have 40 people playing. It's nicer. So, it's one of these, if you build it, they will come. But in this case, they've come, and now we have to build it. We don't want to stop people playing tennis. There's some criticisms to this, right? Like you want to get rid of tennis. I don't want to get rid of tennis. I want to put up a sign that says tennis players have priority, and we can move those nets out of the way in about 1 minute. And another criticism I've heard is that multiple lines on courts are confusing. Well, I don't know where people have gone to high school, but I went in Kemptville. There was a big black basketball court set of lines. Running across that were 2 half-court basketballs. We had 4 volleyball courts on that in another color. We had badminton in another color. You all remember this from high school, right? It's not a problem. Just remember you're using the purple ones. Anyway, cost. Everybody cares about cost, especially when we're talking about budget. This is very cheap, even if staff do it. It's a matter of putting some paint on. And if there's no money in the budget, the pickleball players have put lines on courts before, and we're happy to do it. But to me, that's a detail as to who does it. Anyway, we hope that it could be done by spring. 2026, let's go. It's a useful facility, keeps seniors fit. And I forgot to mention, because I'm retired, this is an economic driver. When people come down here, for example, I came down, I might buy diesel for my tractor. People come down here, they go to the grocery store. They go to the beer store. They go out for coffee. When people come to your community, they spend money. It's just the way it is. So there are good reasons for doing it. I can't think of any bad reasons. I can't think of any downsides to doing this. Anyway, any questions?
Sorry, my apologies. Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions for the presenter? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Foti.
Thank you, Your Worship, but through you. My first question, and maybe the only question, will be to our Director of Operations. When the pickleball courts were done last year, was there any work done at all in this segment?
Where the red lines are? Is that your question,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor? Okay.
Yes, through your worship, we completed the entire area.
That's what I
including-
thought.
Yeah, the tennis, the
So
pickleball.
the whole
courts, and the
court
basketball.
is brought right up to the same level.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, that's one plus. We're not working with a jeopardized section of court.
No, there's no tripping hazard.
No, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like, and you know, with the pickleball players, you're pretty aggressive at what you're doing, and you know, the last thing you want is having a 1/2-inch lift, a concrete crack across the middle of the court. But you're correct. I stopped in one day this past summer, and there was a woman and her 15-year-old son, and she was teaching him how to play tennis, but they're using the pickleball court, and it was late afternoon, and I basically stopped in to see the court, and she said, "We'll be finished in a minute." I said, "I'm not here for you. I'm here to look at the court," which I did. I walked all around the whole court. But anyway, I don't have any further questions right now.
Okay, I have Counselor Maybe. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Director of Operations. In our recreation plan, is there anything that sets out of doing the same work?
At this point, this had not been contemplated as part of the recreation working group. And
Okay, sorry. I have Counselor Kilman wanting to get in. My apologies. Counselor Kilman, you're on the.
Thank you, Your Worship.
right?
And through you, I was just going to add, I think this is an excellent thing to have referred to the Recreation Working Group to discuss at our next meeting. So we haven't discussed it. We've discussed pickleball. It's the second fastest growing sport in Canada after cricket. So we've discussed it in several locations, and I think this can be added to the discussion for sure.
Okay, so Madam Clerk, does it need to be a notice of motion to direct staff, or can it just be added to the working group?
What do you prefer, Director Hawley?
May I say something, or am I done?
Go ahead. Well, technically you're done, but
I don't feel done. So thank you. My trouble with things being handed over to staff to get them done is quite often they don't occur.
this isn't staff. This is the recreation working group. So there's a
Okay.
number of individuals that are part of that working group, including council members.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that would be, if it could be done, you're in charge of how it gets done.
Correct.
That would be great. Okay,
Correct.
thanks.
So the indication, and I believe there's a couple of council members that are here, so that you can ensure that that's discussed at the working group, and you can bring back a report to council, report back on that prior to the spring.
Yes, through
Okay.
to you. When we have a meeting with the Recreation Working Group, we do provide a report the following month on
Yep.
what was discussed and the outcomes of that as well.
Perfect. So that would be the mechanism. So it'll get taken back to the Recreation Working Group in regards to the plans for 2024, and then the decision, what the plans are coming forward, will come back to council. Go ahead, Councillor
We have
Lackey.
a meeting on the 22nd, correct?
Okay,
One of the
so
two.
of
And
January?
One coming up.
Okay, perfect. So it can be on the agenda for the next working group. Okay. You have another question? Go ahead.
Yeah, just that I think last month we had the presentation from Lyndhurst.
Lyndhurst,
And
right.
that was sent to the working group as well. So
Okay.
only fair that it be sent to the working group.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. So it'll be going there and then it'll come back in February.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
If I can just add one more thing,
Yep.
that we do have a meeting with the pickleball group with Mr. Sibbald. I believe you're part of
Yeah,
next week.
on the 12th.
On the 12th. We will be meeting with them. When we met with the pickleball group in 2025, after updating the rates and fees, we gave them a grace period for fees for 2025, but it indicated that that will come into effect in 2026. So I think it's a factor that needs to be considered, is
Mhm.
that we will be charging for booking the facility this year as
Okay.
per the rates and fees. And that might have an impact on how many users there are as well too. So once we have that information next week, then we'll bring that information to the
On top of-
recreation working group as well. too.
Fair. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which is adoption and receipt of minutes. So the motion comes forward from Councillor Leclerc, seconded by Councillor Kelman. The December 8th, 2025 council meeting minutes and December 1st, 2025 special council meeting minutes be adopted as circulated, and that November 25th, 2025 Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes be received and filed. Discussion, errors, or omissions on any of those minutes? I have no hands up. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? And it's carried. Next item on the agenda is staff reports, and there are none this week. Number 14, action required items, moved by Councillor Kelman, seconded by Councillor Lackey, that council approve zoning bylaw amendment application D14-2025-013 for the property municipally known as 915 Woodridge Lane to amend the existing RU zone of the property to a shoreline residential special exception RS-63 zone, and that the council further amend bylaw number 07-079 zoning bylaw of the Corporation of the Township of Leeds in the Thousand Islands as amended as per Exhibit F, draft bylaw and Schedule A to report number 2026-001, and that council grant 3 readings and final passage to the amending bylaw. Discussion on the motion. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry.
It's all right. I knew who you were talking to.
Yeah, it's one of those things. So in the brief, it talked about the septic field possibly being in the other municipality. Is there any issues with that type of condition?
Through you, no, there's no issues with the condition in terms of the property being developed. The development as of right would be allowed within the zoning within our township.
So who would have jurisdiction over the inspection of the sewage system then?
If it's in Athens, it would be Athens.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And does Athens do their own septic inspections, or do they do it through the Conservation Authority? Just curious.
I don't know the answer.
Rideau Lakes, I think so too. Yeah, okay. We've got, I think, enough on our plate, but thanks for. Exactly. Any further comments or questions in regards to this application? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. 14.2 Asset Management Plan for 2025. And the motion comes from Councillor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Kelman, that council approve the 2025 Asset Management Plan as attached to Corporate Services 2026-004. So, discussion on this motion. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
I do have quite a few questions.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, how about you ask a few and then we'll
Yeah,
let them
yeah.
answer and then we'll
Okay.
go back.
So site works, what is it?
Site works here at the
Well,
municipal.
On the, I didn't write down the specific page where I seen that, but it talked about site works as a list of items.
Yep. So through your mayor, so site works typically we include things like last year, like accessible pathways when you put things like that in, basically
Ramps.
grounds, things of that nature. It's
Okay.
like a lot of it would be like hardscaping, things like
Okay,
that.
just seeing site works, and again, the description was pretty vague. So thank you for that clarification. Parks, why has it got a high increase in the or not the value, but the rating? There was something there. So-
Because we just replaced some
I believe,
equipment.
yeah, I believe the parks and land improvements, the big change would have been, so this AMP, unlike the one from last year, is the assets audited as of the end of 2024 with the 2024 financial statements. So that did include the work on the new,
Play
boat,
structure?
boat
Oh,
launch.
the Ivy Lee.
Ivy Lee.
Ivy League,
Which,
okay,
the wharf, so which was a pretty massive change from the
Yes.
old AMP.
okay. That answers that. It also talked about Water Tower 3. I didn't know we were having a third one.
Water Tower 3.
Yeah.
Now everybody's scrambling. Yeah, we
What
have-
said
we
Water
have-
Tower 3.
we have 2 well heads.
Yeah, 2 wells, and we have the second water tower possibly going in, but when it said 3, I went, is it a typo?
That might be well house. It might have meant to be well house.
We only have 2.
I only have 2.
That's probably.
Sorry, I didn't write down the page. That was before I started doing that.
Thanks. That is incorrect.
Yeah,
Try again.
that's why I was kind of questioning, are we doing something else? So it should be 2, right? Is that a typo? Is that what?
No, there should
I'm
only be
guessing
1.
the quantity of components. I'm guessing that's the tower and the 2 houses equals the 3 components. I'm guessing that's what it is. It's not necessarily meaning there's 3 water towers. It's
just,
asset components. So I'm guessing it's the 2.
maybe the
well
verbiage needs to be clarified a bit better.
I'm guessing it's the 2 well houses plus the actual.
Plus the
Fine.
actual tower.
Okay,
So perhaps to your point, when the average Joe is reading this document, obviously the rest of us missed it. So thank you for catching it, Counselor. Maybe. Having said that, it would be better for clarity purposes that the public understand that it isn't, that
Yeah.
we're expecting to put up 3 water
Yeah.
towers. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Counselor Lackey.
But right underneath it does say wells too, so wouldn't your pump houses
You
go
know,
with your wells?
to look at.
yeah, so,
I know.
We need some clarity on those 2 items.
Yeah.
okay. Next thing is on page 113, it says fire vehicles poor 60%, 62%. And then on page 128, 13.7.2, fire vehicles 46%. So why is there discrepancy?
I would have to get back to you on that. I can answer the previous water tower question.
Okay,
So the 3 components are, because there's technically 3 assets within the citywide
Yes.
database. So one of the components, for example, is the actual fencing and gates that we just put in last year. So that's an asset component of around the tower. And then looking at the actual tower, it's split into 2 different assets. So
The pump and the actual
yeah,
tower.
so still to the point, the verification of the information being given to us. If it's spelled out in just a point form that, okay, fence and tower and wellheads or whatever would be. So the fire vehicles, so we have
what page was
62% and
that?
46%.
Which page?
Okay, so page 113 and page 128. So
Serve fire vehicles and poor. So you're saying it's 60.
They're saying there's a discrepancy between the 2 numbers. One says 40.
yeah, one says poor 62%, the other one says fire vehicles 46% as in poor. So the 42% or 46% is page 128, 13.7.2.
Oh, it's so they're one's fire equipment and one's fire vehicles. Page
Okay.
128's referring to machinery and equipment,
Okay,
whereas 113 is lead.
okay, so the
trucks.
So the vehicles would be like ATV, fire boats,
Yes.
half-ton trucks.
Whereas
are
the
they
equipment
that?
would, yes,
Pumpers.
exactly.
Pumpers are
the,
in
the pumper
other-
trucks.
Yeah.
Machinery and equipment would be like the bunker gear, your
Okay.
struts. Yeah.
Okay,
That sort
that's,
of thing,
that's
so-
better for the clarification. And again, even in this document, maybe there should be a verbiage there indicating those items that are calculated into that actual piece. Next, page 118, 13.1.2, it says one library, not three.
Sorry, say that again?
Page 118, 13.1.2 says one library, not three. So
Oh, furnitures.
I was kind of going, and again, I'm making quick notes as I'm trying to read.
Yeah, no,
107
that's fine. But the-
174 pages.
But the real crux of this,
Yeah.
and so why I appreciate you bringing these up is because it's one thing for us to have the ability to sit here and ask the additional questions. But if the general public reads the document and can't read it,
I would
or
say,
can't
so
decipher.
on page 118, that's under furnitures and fixtures. That's not under buildings.
Okay,
So so the library furniture and equipment would be a pooled asset. It's
okay,
not speaking to the actual, so the actual libraries would be under
Yeah.
the building section, not.
So that's maybe how the difference when we're reading it, just making sure that we're looking at it from the heading, which is in that particular page, furniture and fixtures.
yeah, furniture fixtures, okay.
Okay.
And let's see, what's this one?
Yeah. So, sorry, just to
Yep.
add to that. So if you go to page 88 under buildings and facilities,
Mm-hmm.
there it actually has, it has the quantity 2 and then in brackets 64. So 64 is the components of the assets. And the reason it says 2 libraries there is because that facility in Lansdowne, it's incorporated in the larger facility, which is a community hall, whereas the
Yep.
other 2 up north are
Standalone.
standalone
Yeah.
libraries.
I did see that too, and I was kind of going to question it, but I didn't get that down there. Annual. Page 137, 15.1.2, annual funding available. Is there anything that will be complete or change for that funding availability?
So, through you, Mayor. So the funding availability, that's our, that's based on our last contribution to the capital reserves that we do through the budget. And then that's our OCIF and our Fed gas tax. One thing I would say that that we're going to look at this year. So right now our capital reserve funds are broken down by sections and we just keep increasing it. So we do want to look at that mix because if you look in the budget 10-year plan,
Mhm.
I kind of look at the overall capital
Yeah.
reserves as one total because that's really what matters because you can borrow between them. But we do want to kind of look at that mix, whereas some might, maybe the overall increase to the reserves is that 5%, but they're not all uniformly increased
Right.
5%. So we do want to look at that mix, but the overall number is the reserve contribution through operating and then OCIF and
Okay,
that
that does
gas
answer
tax.
that. Okay.
Okay.
That's actually all my,
Oh, sorry, Director of Operations has something to add.
Thank you. Before we move forward, back to the water tower.
yes,
The 3 assets are the fencing that Phil had spoken about previously.
yep.
There's the water tower itself, and then there's also the land is the
The
third
land.
asset.
The land.
Yeah, the acquisition of the
Oh.
land.
Okay.
We'll set site to it then. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Is that all the questions? Wonderful.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Other questions in regards to this asset management plan? I only had one before we call the question, which is to ask in regards, and I didn't want to get into it in the delegation with the presenter. The shortfall that was identified, which was 900, no,
About 900.
900,000. Is that taking into account the plan for borrowing that we went through when we talked about the financial plan and budget?
Through your honor. No, that's not, there's no taking out new debt built into this.
Okay,
It's-
so this is just straight line if we were contributing and maintaining all the
Yeah, so-
assets based on what we know.
Basically that number comes from, they calculate the annual replacement cost, which is like the 172 million a
yeah.
year. Right now, if you look at our reserves and our OCIF and CCBF, it adds up to 3 point whatever. The difference is 900,000. That's pretty much the simple equation.
So I'm going to ask the question because I know how I feel about it, but if you were to compare us to many other municipalities, when you're looking at that disparity between what we currently have in reserves, what we need to have in reserves in order to replace, would you say, based on your expertise, that this is actually a fairly narrow gap comparative to some municipalities?
Through your honor, I would say so. I believe she mentioned the number was, we're basically, that rough math, we're 80% funded, which is
Which I think,
not bad.
well, I
Comparison.
just look at some other municipalities who are struggling to fund reserves, who have to make up a lot of ground, and we're at 80%, which is, to me, fairly remarkable. And we've added other major projects like the wharf, like the fire station. So if you take into account that we've expanded things, because the Ivy Lee Wharf before was not the facility that it was today, no different than adding the new Sealy's Bay fire facility, like, and we're still at 80%, or is that inclusive of that?
The new fire station is not built into this.
Because it's not based
It'll
on
be going in for 2025's year end, but the new wharf is.
the new wharf is.
So that, in theory, that the replacement of that asset is built into there. Now it has a long useful life, so the annual requirement for that wouldn't be,
Minimal,
would be somewhat minimal, but
Mhm.
yes, the new fire hall will be incorporated after this year.
right? So all in all, we're in good shape, I guess, is comparatively.
I mean, yes, and
We're always going to need more.
the infrastructure deficit is quite large. Like in general in the province, every municipality struggles with it. So I think our annual contribution to our reserves and that continued
Based on the plan that
initiative,
she
yeah,
put forward.
is, that, and where it was 5 years ago to even now, or even 7, 8 years ago to where it is now, that's what's funding that. So
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know why I'm having trouble with that tonight. Anyways, that's where some of my questions about the actual grants came in too, because the grants aren't calculated into that. If we get a grant for something, then that takes that 80% up to 90%, because that does help offset some of the costs that we're needing.
yeah, I don't want to say this is worst case scenario because that's a negative connotation, but this is built in assuming that, yeah, you don't have any grants. This is what you're looking at. And then, yeah, getting grants just shrinks that down.
Go ahead.
Your worship, on the topic of grants, I see them come through, a lot of grants we maybe do know about or don't know about from different departments, fire department, library. When we do the budget, it's set for what we deem to be necessities brought forward by department heads to make the municipality work. When we get grants outside of that established budget and we purchase things that go into inventory, how does that change the amp? Because it's money we didn't budget and it's going in and it's altering the amp, because depending on what's purchased,
Well, you got to replace it.
you have to replace it.
Yes.
So those grants, in my opinion, shouldn't be spent that year. Those grants should go into whatever reserve so that it can be accounted for in the next year, because like I said, it's like winning the lottery. We're not really all that accountable for that money.
Right. So, through Mayor. So what I would say to that, any grants we get during the year that are for above and beyond, like, we got 30,000 to buy something that we hadn't budgeted for, when that report would come to council to approve the grant, the agreement for the grant. And in theory, we'd be approving that additional budget. I would say you can't typically, when we get grants, there's typically a timeline on when the money has to be spent. Usually that's typically within the year for smaller grants. I know with some of the fire ones, when they got the stuff for the cleaners and stuff, it had to be spent by, April 30th of whatever day. And you have to show that you've purchased it by that. But if those assets weren't originally in the budget, then a report should be coming to approve the grant and to approve that additional capital budget per se. Because like you do say, once an asset gets in there, then it becomes a replacement and increases that annual requirement.
And sorry, through you again, Your Worship. And that is basically unbeknownst to council. Like I said, you're altering our decisions for budget purposes. I would say not to be frivolous, but if you're going to spend that money, don't spend it on something big that you're gonna come back to us and say, well, we bought it, now we gotta replace it. Well, maybe you shouldn't have bought it. If you really needed it, it would be in the budget. So all you're doing is taking that money, buying stuff you maybe didn't need, or maybe you did need. You're gonna buy something you want. And that's going into inventory that has to be accounted for. Does this make sense to anybody besides myself? You're inflating our budget without us
Being part of the
being
decision.
part of the discussion.
Well,
Can you give an example?
I don't want to pick on fire, but the chief's right here.
The chief's like, man,
He's good at getting grants,
Yep.
small, medium, large
Yep.
grants. So what do I buy? Oh geez, guys, what do we need? Well, let's buy some more bunker gear. Let's buy some more boots. Let's buy hoses. Let's whatever. So now you're bringing that into our inventory. And now that it's in our inventory, it has to be accounted for and replaced. So you're playing dominoes beyond our budget.
go ahead. And then Councilor Leclerc.
Thank you. I'm just going to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. So I'm going to use an example that I thought of. I'm going to pick on fire too. So fire has been successful in terms of a grant for cleaning gear, which means we're getting new washers and dryers for the stations. That isn't something that was included in the budget, if I'm correct. But so we're getting these new washers and dryers, which is adding assets to the inventory, if
Which
I'm
then we
correctly
have to
understanding
replace.
you. So then after whatever the life cycle is for those, they will need to be replaced, which is then going to add more costs to the overall budget. Yes.
Buying those with that grant, you've obligated.
Yes, okay.
Nothing else. Not in the budget, not in anything that we've discussed.
It actually poses a good question because we look at even now it had already come to council in regards to the establishment of the new water tower. So we knew that was something we already knew was happening. We were going after a grant for it. But in the case of the washers and dryers, we didn't know we were going after a grant for that. Now, and it's a good lesson for everybody that sits around this table, but not just now, but in the future, that the yeses today cost tomorrow. And it is a good point. So Ms. Leclerc, I'll let you in on this.
Yeah, thank you. It is a good point. I think it's worth noting. But I also just wanted to consider the other side too, that these might be expenses that you're looking at down the road anyways. So a grant might just be moving the timeline up,
Yeah.
but might save you later in the long run.
That's big. Yeah.
Well, and that's where at least
Which is why we have strategic plans and usually think it might not be this year, but it often ties back to a strategic plan in some way.
go ahead.
Thank you through you. Just to go back to my example of the washing machines, the purpose of them is for health and safety and cancer prevention. So, I mean, well, it's not something that was necessarily contemplated at that time, as Councillor Leclerc pointed out. It's something that may be needed down the road. And in addition to that, we do have to come back to council to have council sign or authorize us to sign agreements to enter into these grants. So that's an opportunity when we come forward with a grant agreement for council authorization for council to think, do we need this? Don't we need this? And what's the long-term implication of it?
We should probably do that prior to applying for the grants. I know it's nice to get free money, but again, it's not free. Nothing is free. You get
There's
something for
strings
free,
to it at the
it
end.
goes in the inventory and you pay for it somewhere down the line.
I think it's more to let staff, just to remind staff that it's that obligation. You got a good one? I'll let you go. with
I gave you a free truck, but who's got to maintain it and put the gas in it?
You didn't give me a free truck.
I might, if you're nice.
If I'm nice. I just got to be nice. Anyways, who knew? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship, through you. I agree with what Councillor Lackey's saying, but maybe we should change the word grant to gift. We're starting out with an asset on a grant. They're giving it to us. I mean, the fire department was a classic example on this information we have on tonight's meeting, those grants, and congratulations, by the way, for getting all of them. But those are covering the dangers that our firefighters in this case are facing. It may not always be that critical. You know, if somebody gifts us a grant for a helicopter, should we buy it? Maybe not. I just want to go back on a comment you had made, Your Worship, a few minutes ago about where we stood with our own situation when it comes to our asset management plan and where we stand. And I see us as pretty healthy. I'm kind of a news junkie when it comes to politics. There's two cities on either side of us. I won't name them. And I was a little aghast. Now, granted, we're comparing apples to oranges here, cities compared to our little municipality. Both those cities are tens of millions of dollars, and it's news to them right now. They're tens of millions of dollars short in infrastructure money. And they're all looking around the horseshoe at each other like, how are we going to fix this? And one of them just kind of got the ball rolling on asset management. They weren't in on the first few years because I was kind of caught off guard that a city that size would sit back on that. I think to the credit of our staff, which we know, back when this first came around and COVID struck and the Doug Ford government said, we'll give you another year's leeway. And Dave Holliday was one of the leads on that. And our treasurer at the time, Kate Tyndall, and they said, no, leave us alone. We'll be all done here in about a month or two. They gave us a whole year's leapfrogging to our advantage. And that was the first year we sat down with a budget that was kind of gifted to us. It wasn't granted, but it was gifted to us. But I think, you know, this asset management plan is a Bible for municipalities. I don't care how big you are. If you're not following this, you're either following or you're going the other direction. But it's a good point you made, Your Worship, about where we stand, because when I'm reading these other cities in this case, and I couldn't imagine sitting around that horseshoe where you're going to come up with $37 million on something they didn't know they needed. So we are sitting pretty.
Well, and just to qualify that, doesn't mean that things might not pop up here that we weren't anticipating as well. I don't want to say that we're savants here and that we've got it all figured out. We still, a perfect example is when we started down this path, and we had the stuff in the asset management plan and we were going along and everything was great. And we were so proud of ourselves. And then we had to replace the tandem. And in the asset management plan, it was $263,000 and the actual cost was $450,000. So we had to rejig. So it's always about updating and constantly evolving the data. And she said that in the delegation, but I think it's a testament to the staff to continually be upgrading those data pieces so that when budget does come around, it's as accurate as it possibly can be. It's never going to be 100% because there's always shifting sand, no matter which way you look at it. But I do honestly feel like we have a very good handle on things comparatively. And, but anyways, I'm going to stop making comments and I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. So thank you very much. And just kudos to the staff. And I know that the Treasury staff, along with all the senior managers, the directors, work hard at adding information to this very important document. Moving along to the 2026 interim tax levy bylaw. The motion is moved by Councillor Kelman, seconded by Councillor Lackey, that council grant 3 readings and final passage to bylaw 2026-001 being a bylaw to provide for the interim tax levy on all property classes and to provide for the payment of taxes. Discussion on this motion. It's a pretty standard bylaw every year. Okay, we'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. 14.4 temporary borrowing bylaw for 2026, moved by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Deputy Mayor Fody, that the council grant 3 readings of final passage to bylaw number 2026-002 being a bylaw to provide for temporary borrowing by the municipality when required. Before we go any further, Mr. Treasurer, when's the last time we dipped into temporary borrowing?
I have never been able to find a time we have, so.
Okay. Just to give some
Not to say,
comfort.
who knows, 30 years ago.
Yeah, just to give some comfort to the public who may or may not be watching, we don't generally borrow for operating purposes, but it's there in the event that we should ever need it. If we've got multiple projects going on, but that's all the temporary borrowing bylaw is. It's not for long term. Okay, any questions? Call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. $14.5 municipally significant event, Sealy's Bay Lions Frost Fest, moved by Councillor Antoine Hartley, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that council deem the Sealy's Bay Lions Frost Fest for February 6th to the 8th, 2026 as municipally significant for the purpose of the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario's special occasion permit process. Standard procedure at this point, I believe. Any questions? I hope you've all marked your calendar. It's always fun. Get to see the fireworks. Bundle up. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Next item is staff reports. There is no recommendation. It's just letting everybody know that we're seeking 25th anniversary logo submissions. No, sorry. Oh, sorry, this is the logo. My apologies. I was referring to another email I got earlier. Sorry, this is in regards to the staff signature on their emails at this point. Any questions in regards to that? Go ahead. I've got Councillor Maybe, then Deputy Mayor Fody.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wondering how many submissions we actually had.
We're not there yet. I don't
Through,
think.
through you, Mayor. I would, so this report is just for information of, because we were going to update our signature emails and some swag and stuff. This isn't the actual contest logo that we're currently doing. I believe we've received a few submissions, but my
Nothing's
apologies. I
just-
don't have
yeah.
the date of the due date of when we're looking for those, but this isn't the logo contest.
Sorry, I made a mistake. So 15.1 is in regards to the township staff logo that's being used at the bottom of their email, not the logo contest. The logo contest is so they're using the moniker of 25th anniversary, but the logo contest submissions I think are due before the end of January.
I think so, but
Yeah. So
should know, but
maybe we can have somebody look that up before the end of the meeting and we'll make it part of the announcements.
Just as a follow-up, is there a scheduled date yet for this event or to do anything for the 25th? I don't know.
That would be up to the communications staff.
yeah. Sorry, through you, Mayor. No, we don't have firm dates yet. Once budget's passed, there is some money in the budget to do some events and some celebration stuff, and that'll be forthcoming.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Fody, go ahead.
My question's indirectly been answered. I was looking for the final date for the logo contest.
We will ensure that we find that out prior. The acting CEO is looking. So, go ahead, Councillor Claire.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question for staff. So we did receive communication earlier with some feedback about the logo being discussed right now, like the one that staff will be using on letterhead and in their signatures. Is that being considered, taken into consideration? Is there flexibility around that?
Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, there's always flexibility. We weren't really looking for feedback from that, to be honest with you. There can be a million different opinions on color, this, that, and the other thing. It was really, this was done in-house to be cost effective, to convey the 25 years and so.
But if there's any feedback, if it's hard to read or anything like that, then I'm sure that staff would be welcome any sort of input.
And to answer the previous question, the deadline's February 1st.
February 1st. I knew it was the end of January. Perfect. Okay, so get your submissions in for the logo contest. And I'm assuming a report will be coming to council.
Yes.
Yes, in regards to the submission. Thank you. Okay, any other comments in regards to the logo? Go ahead.
I have one. Why don't we just let AI do it? Because that's what everybody's going to use anyway.
I am hoping
AI isn't always correct because sometimes AI puts stuff in the logo that has no bearing on the township.
Yep.
Just saying. Anyway, I'm moving along with the grant funding update, which is 15.2. Grant funding update. Mike, Chief.
Through your worship, we've been very fortunate to receive a few grants. I just wanted to kind of give an update on what we received in 25 and right up to the end of 25 and what's coming in 26. You'll see some reports come to council for the Firehouse Subs grant and the second installment of the fire protection grant. I just received the actual go ahead that we've got the grant. So I'll be bringing a report to council for those. For the Firehouse Sub grant, that will bring in 10 sets of ice water rescue suits, helmets, rope, that replaces equipment that's 28 years old. So although that's not a high frequency call out, it's when we need it. It's, as you know, having worked before, you find spots that leak every time you go in, whether that's in your toe or in your finger or other parts that you don't want to have cold water on. So we looked at trying to go at that in a manner that we could start to replace some of that equipment and try to dole it out between the 4 stations. So it replaces some equipment. A lot of our rope and helmets are also that old. So it's not a high frequency, but we want to we're Leeds, Thousand Islands. We need lots of water around, so we need to do that. The grants from the energy groups that we've received, I put that in as well into our capital budget. So we're trying to replace some older gas powered fans that we have that are aging. So we're looking to change those over to battery operated. And the TC Energy one was good for basically two fans. So they also will run under the same power battery that we use for AutoWex equipment. For the fire protection grant, we received $33,000 in March of 25, which got us started on our being able to wash our gear. In-house, we had one donation of one from the fire marshal's office when the fire college closed. This allowed us to be able to buy 3 more for the other 3 stations, which means we don't have to send the gear out every single time it gets washed. We can do it in-house, so it cuts that cost of operation that way. With the second grant, we were fortunate enough to get $66,000 for this grant that we just received, because the way they work it out is per station is how they work that out. So we're able to get 66,000. So what we've looked at doing with the bunker gears in 2 pieces. So we'll have a one washer does the inner set, one washer does the outer set. And then we bought dryers to help get the gear dry a little quicker so that our firefighters aren't without that gear. The reason they do this is for the high rates of cancer within firefighters. We're much higher rate than the average person because of what we do. So we're trying to alleviate some of those issues as well. And I think that's all of the grants that we have coming in. Also have some upcoming things happening with the Thousand Islands Association. They've committed to some more money again this year, which will help with our marine program as well. So that's
excellent. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Lackey, and then Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. Again, as I hear this, just for future reference, I'd like to see the grants used to replace things we need, not buy new stuff.
Okay. So some of the stuff is replacing.
Through your worship, yes, the fans are replacing equipment that's 20 years old. The ice water rescue gear is 30 years old. The fire marshal's grant is very specific. You get to use it for cancer prevention. So it's either replacing bunker gear, which we don't need to because we've been replacing bunker gear every year, or something to do with fire or cancer prevention within firefighters. So
okay.
Also saves us money because we don't have to send our gear out every single time and be without gear for a week and a half or 2 or whenever they decide to send it back.
Okay. And Councillor Maybe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Yes, those power fans do work well. I had the opportunity earlier today to actually see one in operation from Kingston Fire, so another whole story in itself. But with the washer and dryer, we know Station 2 is equipped to have it hooked up right now. How is the hookups for the rest of the stations being implemented?
Through your worship, working with facilities and our plumber within the township, we've got 3 of the stations set up. Station 4, we've got a little bit more work to do to get that to where we need to be, but we'll have that set up fairly quickly as soon as the stuff comes in.
Okay. Any other comments or questions in regards to the grant funding? I have no hands up, so I'll go forward with information items. Moved by Councillor Antoine Hartley, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that the information items be received and filed. There are 2 items there. Is there any comments or questions in regards to the items? Go ahead, Councillor Conlon.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I have a couple of comments on the first item, the letter received from Mr. Kench. I did want to note his second suggestion about better lighting on Prince Street. I know Councillor Antoine Hartley and I had a conversation with a business owner on Prince Street in the fall who also made this suggestion. I don't know whose jurisdiction, because it's a county road. I don't know whose jurisdiction lighting would fall under.
Ours.
It is under our jurisdiction. So just to make council aware that at least one business owner who's on the lower part of the street right in the village is also concerned about lighting. She had concerns about how safe she felt leaving the business in the evening, and also, as Mr. Kench references, the attractiveness of the village. So definitely something to take into consideration. Also, for his third item that he mentions, this is something very preliminary, that discussions that have been happening at the recreation working group with the community center, because its end of life is coming up in about a decade. But yeah, so that's already on our radar. Just wanted to make everyone aware.
Is it lighting not part of what we did with the Lansdowne revitalization piece, like sidewalks, landscaping, that sort of thing? Is that not part of it?
No. So the lighting in Lansdowne, I wasn't here at the time, but I would assume, like every other municipality in Ontario, they updated their lighting through LAS when they had the grants. There are different levels of lighting, and some of the lights that are installed can be adjusted as well too. So it's something we can definitely look at with our electricians and see if we can make some alterations. Otherwise, the head may need to be changed out to increase the wattage that they put out. But that does have a negative impact as well too, because we do have residential properties and not everybody wants to have bright lights. So, it's that back and forth as well too.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just as a follow-up to that, I know the business owner we spoke with, she was referencing specifically pedestrian lighting, which is not a term I was familiar with. So I don't think she was talking about like street lights, but something lower down that would be more covering sidewalks, along the sidewalks. So I don't know if that, I have no idea cost, but just might
It's
be
on the radar.
Yeah, on the radar. Just so it might be an alternative.
Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. I'm very adverse in the lighting since my whole site was redone there a few years ago with LED. And I think, Dave, you've actually been on site and seen it at night. I think you indicated, but they are LED and they do stream quite well, and they aren't overly bright, but they have enhanced the area and the walking distance or driving distance, whatever you might want, quite a bit. And still the poles are quite a ways away. The other thing with these poles and lights that are here on Prince Street, when Frank was sitting in your seat, Madam Mayor, we had a discussion on it, and I know that he tried to get the poles either moved to the other side or change the parking to the other side to minimize dodging around these poles, which I know has always been a problem. But certainly the lighting that are on those poles could be changed to actually be in much better. Again, it's just the illumination and the LED heads that I have on the ones that I have on my site could very well enhance and still not be as bright as the sodium bulbs that we used to have at one time. Going back to Mr. Kench's number 1 item here, policing pricing and I know that was looked at probably 10 years ago or more about OPP and the town covering our area. And the costing of the policing in Gananoque is fairly high in capita between hours. But I also know when the OPP moved into Picton, that that had their own police service. It wasn't very long afterwards that they were wishing that they hadn't switched. So I think the policing really needs to be looked at a higher level to really know whether we need a change or whether we're just doing fine. And again, it's a serviceability, because we know that the OPP have many things. And when we see their report, there's a list of 30, 40 things that they have done over the year or for us. And with the number of police officers that are available, it does limit how much time they're actually in a community. And I think OPP are very much that kind of base service opposed to a dedicated police service for a community. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
I won't take up a whole lot of time, but yeah, when Bobby Parrish was chief, he was tasked with providing us a price for policing. But at the end of the day, when discussion was had with OPP, they basically said, you know, the township can do what we want to do, but just remember that every time something serious happens in GAN, it's the OPP that has to come anyway. They're the ones that have the resources,
And the specialties when
the
things happen.
specialties and all the rest. So Gananoque, even though they have their own forces, are using OPP anyway. So I think that's why we stayed with OPP and dropped it, is because it ended up being, as much as they are very expensive, they are the better deal.
Through you, Mayor, just to add to that, just high level, I kind of looked at this, as a percentage of our levy. Gananoque pays about twice as much as us as a percentage of their levy for policing as what we pay OPP. So when you're speaking to the value, that's not necessarily speaking the level of service, but in terms of financial, as a percentage of levy, they're twice as much. So just to provide some context.
Well, and you also have to look at it that Gananoque 25 years ago had a very different commercial tax base. Like, it was a very different town. So anyways, we'll just stick to our knitting here in the township and keep our head down and keep our eye on the prize. So not to say that the suggestions aren't valuable and can't be factored in, but we'll stick with what we know. So go ahead, Councillor Cumming.
Thank you, Orshpin, for you. I also just wanted to address the second item, the audit from the library. As you read in the report, they have reattained accreditation. We have for our library, and a lot of work went into this. I just saw a little bit of it sitting on the board for the last couple of years at the policy level, but also heard reports consistently at every meeting about what staff was doing to work towards this. So I just want to give congratulations to Cindy, the CEO, and to all of the staff, because they've all played a part in this. And it is a really big deal. And it just, there's a number of, if you see the Facebook post from the library today, it lists the reasons why it's good to have accreditation, but mainly it says that this library is of a certain quality in terms of access, how it's managed, how it's staffed. And I think for our little library, I think it's really special. And I just wanted to say congratulations to all
Hear,
of
hear.
them.
Congratulations. For those of you who are watching us online, it's our director or our CEO of the library is joining us in the gallery. So a round of applause for her. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. By the way, Cindy, that's a pretty phenomenal score that the libraries have achieved here in our township. Not surprising to those of us watching what's happened here the last few years. With regards to Mike Kench's statements here, it's sometimes easy to just say, well, let's go another direction. I wouldn't even fathom that with the OPP. I mean, we could sit here all night and chat about all the reasons why. It's been touched on. There are certain levels that a local police forces can't even touch them. And it wasn't that many years ago, and I won't point out the individual that shared that with me, Gananoque had the highest paid police force in Ontario. That's Toronto, Ottawa, everybody. OPP, Gananoque was the highest paid police force in the province. So by thinking you're going to have your own little police force and you're looking after it like eggs under a duck, it doesn't always come out that way. Your eggs can end up being cracked. With regards to the last statement there, I mean, I kind of have to laugh. Mike's a good-hearted guy, but his last three words maybe summed up some of it. Gotta have dreams. Well, if you're going to put a walking track around an inside swimming pool, I'll gladly have the discussion with Mike about the local municipalities around here can't afford the roof over the pool, let alone everything else. I mean, I would like to think someday we can think big enough and strong enough and forward-thinking enough that in a more modern municipal hub that we could incorporate something like that. But right now it's totally a pipe dream, totally a pipe dream.
Treasurer, how much did Amherst pay?
It was large.
Million?
That number changed after I
After you
left, but the number is upwards of that. Now that does include some work on the arena and some common areas.
But that's a pool, that's the community center.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we
mainly
did
mainly reconstruction of a pool. In my time there, one of the numbers I remember from our aquatics coordinator, in general, the rule was for every 40 to 50,000 population, you should have a pool. So the Amherst.
Considering we don't even have 10.
No, that was from them. I learned lots about pools. So that pool was viable there because it really services the west side of Kingston, and without that population base, it wouldn't be viable there either. But that's my opinion. But they are very expensive, depending on what you do. I mean, lanes, length, warm pool, therapeutic pool. There's a million options, right? So.
Yeah, thanks so much. Just the comments about pools did get me thinking, though, that Kingston did just implement a delay for out-of-town people to be able to even sign up. So the opportunity for families in our area to access a pool for swim lessons is probably next to nothing now. So I just think that it's worth noting that, you know, we can be creative without building a pool. We can make sure that we are getting swim lessons at beaches in the summers and all of the other things. But swim lessons for kids in our area is going to be more difficult now than before.
Absolutely. And I do believe that it's part of the recreation working group. Some of the things that as being, but one of the things we've talked about even since I've been elected 7 years ago, you know, we're surrounded by water here. Kids need to have, I learned how at Chismorse Pond, you know, other kids were learning at Landon's Bay in the pool there. And then, you know, we have been worried about other things, I think, in the meantime, but that's not to say that we shouldn't have it on the time horizon. I know that there was one of the local groups was looking at helping fund that. And I think that it needs to be considered overall for the future of potentially the community hall here in Lansdowne. But anyways, that's my own feeling. Because talking about future planning, so it may not happen today, but that it needs to be part of an overall strategy. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Not
thank you.
indoor, outdoor. Sorry, I needed to qualify that.
Yeah, thank you. Or even just looking at other municipalities and agreements that we could enter into to make sure that families are able to access, because how it looks right now is that in Kingston, you will be multiple days behind residents and being able to sign up, which means you're not going to get a spot, but maybe there's an opportunity in, you know, Brockville or whatever, right? If there's agreements and partnerships in place.
And that is fair. Go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
Just on that hub, Alex is all over every relationship that you could possibly fathom. She's on it.
Thank you. It's good feedback. Any further comments in regards to the information items? Seeing none, I'll move on forward with announcements and statements from councillors. Any statements or announcements? Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. One of the things that I was thinking about, because we're going to the AMO conference.
Roma conference?
Rome, no. Oh, sorry.
AMO's August.
Yeah, August, the August one.
The August one? Okay.
Yeah, AMO.
Sorry,
but
I'm in Roma mode. It's
yeah,
2
no,
weeks
no.
away.
Well, the one that I'm going to is the August one, and I was wondering if there's a possibility of having a delegation on waste sites with somebody there, because again, waste sites to me, and I know I've been on that group here in the township, and this is a big issue across our country. It's not just our little problem. So maybe a delegation and being able to put our voice to that somewhere there and see what we can do to help out. So, so I'd like to see if we can do something there, if it's possible. The second thing that I had on my list was, is there a current service agreement with the Gananoque Fire Department for us and the TLTI?
We have mutual aid with them, do we not?
Through your worship, we do have, we have mutual aid agreement, but we also have an automatic aid agreement. So the fire chief in Gananoque and I have just gone through it, and I'll be working with the clerk to make the slight changes that we need on that. So they respond east on the parkway as far as Fox Run to the 401 on highway number 2, and then they go west outside again towards Deer Ridge Drive. So they go as they get paged, we get paged, and we go as a collective.
So, and any talk about 401? I know at one time there was.
There's definitely a talk about 401. The issue that there was lots of talk about 401 previous to my employment a couple of fire chiefs ago. There's only 3 exits or 3 mile markers in there that would be covered by Gananoque on the east side, and on the west side it's only 1. They have a pumper and a ladder truck with a new $3 million ladder truck coming in, so I'm pretty sure they don't want to use that as a blocker. But they only carry 750 gallons of water. We carry 1,000 on our front run trucks, and then the tankers behind, so we would still have to be tiered to that as well.
So why are they going out to 401?
That is a great question.
Because we have way more equipment than they do.
I'm also working with
as well as from my point of view, if they end up on the road somewhere and they can't get out and they have something happening in Gananoque, who's losing out?
So
the residents of Gananoque, and I feel for them for that. So is there any way of trying to get back that,
So nothing, they currently don't go on the highway.
No.
And I'm working with the fire chief and the CAO and Gananoque trying to sort out how that looks and what that looks like.
Like I'm all for both departments, not a question. And I've said that publicly many, many times.
Yeah.
And just recently, less than a month ago, for the Gan fire. So, but I think, we have invested many trucks in 4 stations to actually cover all these highways. And they only have the 2 that are really for the town. If they get blocked or locked in, we're going into town. And that's where I kind of fall, where's the safety? Where's the health and safety of the situation then? So anyways, I'll leave it there.
Any other statements or announcements from councillors? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, holidays just wrapped up. Want to thank our firefighters on their food drive. You had 2 locations, did you not? On Sealy's Bay and Lansdowne on that collection?
Through your worship, in the latest one, they just did it in Lansdowne.
Right. Okay. And as far as our works crew, they've had a pretty heavy load here throughout the holidays, plowing snow and throwing sand down everywhere. And I wouldn't say they're working around the clock, but I'm sure there's been a few days when they have. So we appreciate their diligence. Luckily, Christmas Day wasn't one of them. Thank you.
Any other statements or announcements? Seeing none, I'll move on to the mayor's update. So just wishing everybody a happy 2026. It's great to see everybody back. Hopefully everybody had a reasonable and restful holiday, if at all possible. I just wanted to let everybody know that I did attend the levee at the Gananoque Legion on January 1st, and Councillor Maybe was also there. The awards were given out. Gloria Lux and Cliff Feltnam, they are the recipients of People of the Year. They get it jointly because of all the work they do with Trivia Night. So I did speak to him at one point about potentially us going in to have Trivia Night against Town Council. So just to let you know, I might have volunteered us at some point. So anyways, they have raised almost $100,000 for the community by running those trivia nights. It's pretty phenomenal what they've done in a very short period of time. They are not born and raised here. They are from away, as they said. They brought, I think, 20 people to the levee to see them receive the award, which was really nice. And one of their family members has just recently moved to Gananoque in the area. So all that being said, I gave my sort of year-end wrap-up speech as to what we accomplished here in the township. It was in, or it will be in the Gananoque Reporter if it hasn't already been in. And I would also say that it's been definitely a challenging year. Looking forward to the rest, the balance of 2026, doing the warden thing on top of the mayor job has definitely opened my eyes. But you know, what I do understand very clearly is that we're all interconnected and we all have to work together. So I do think it's very important that, you know, relationships with our neighbors and how we deal with things is really important. And I always really enjoy going to Roma and AMO, working with my colleagues at the county table along with our own municipality to delegate and to bridge those gaps, whether it be with Enbridge or with a supplier for large machinery, what have you. So there's lots of reasons that we go to these conferences to learn and make those connections that will hopefully set us up for success later on down the road. Other than that, obviously we have Frostfest that's coming up the beginning of February. Are there any other notable dates before the end? Roma is January 18th to the 21st, I believe. So I will be headed up there on the Saturday and then back on the Tuesday. And I think that's, well, is Rockport the same weekend as Frostfest?
Yeah, thanks. The dates haven't been posted yet, but last I heard they were looking at the long weekend, which is the weekend after.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So that's always a lot of fun as well. So keep your eyes peeled for Rockport Winter Carnival. They've been having it at the Rockport Barn as of late. And they're great hosts and a lot of fun, turkey bowling and all the other stuff that goes along with it. So. Okay, no closed session, and I'll move forward with bylaws. Moved by Councillor Antoine Hartley, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that information items be received and filed. Oh, I never called the question on that. Whoops, we already did that. I'll call the question on the information items. All those in favor? All those opposed? That's carried. My apologies, folks. Moved by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Deputy Mayor Foti, that the third reading and final passage be granted to bylaws 2026-001, 2026-002, 2026-003. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Carried. Okay, and moving on to confirmatory bylaw, moved by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Councillor Antoine Hartley, that three readings and final passage be granted to bylaw 2026-004, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands at its January 6, 2026 council meeting. All those in favor? All those opposed? That's carried. And next item is adjournment. Deputy Mayor Foti is moving, Councillor Antoine Hartley is seconding, and that council adjourn at 7:38 p.m. All in favor? All opposed? And we are adjourned, folks. Thank you.